Hilchis Toen V'Nitan Perek Chamisha Asar. Mi she'irer al asoda, v'hevi edim sheyudolei. So first he brings edim that he's the Marakama. Now v'hevi zeh shebetecha shtar shalokha mimanu, and also v'hevi edim she'achal shnei chazaka. So you have a person that has edim but he's the Marakama. The person that's sitting in the field has a shtar that says that he bought it, and besides that he also has shnei chazaka. Is emlei betchila. So we say to the person that's in the field, kaim shtarcha, be mekayim yishtar, and once you're mekayim yishtar, so the field is yours. You don't even have to swear shvuas esses. Is im the sky mari mutav v'yadim mishtar. However, v'miyav shalei lekaimei. So then a seimcha nalei chazaka, and then yishava hesses shalakha. Now, before we had a case where a person has a shtar, and then we find that the shtar is bottle and he has a chazaka, so we don't rechazach with the chazaka because lepel the chazaka is saying that he bought it, and the shtar is a shtar betel, so it's a chazaka shleini matayna. Mashayinger over here, the shtar is not bottle. The shtar, he wasn't mekayim the shtar. So you can't use the shtar to prove that he owns the karka. But now, lepel, he uses the chazaka to prove that he has a shtar. This shtar taka. Even though he wasn't mekayim the shtar, but he uses the chazaka to prove that he has the shtar. But lepel, since he needs the chazaka, so therefore he has a shvuas essence. Halacha beis. Eidei chazaka, sheheid echad mishneim she'achla chitim, shnei chazaka, v'asheni eid she'achla seirim. So even though l'chura they're contradicting each other, nevertheless edusin kayamis. Sheina eid medaktik b'zeh. Memela, the fact that he said chitim and therefore seirim, we say that he wasn't really careful about it. And the ikar is that they're both being made, that he used the field for 3 years. Now heid echad she'achla zeh shana rishena u'shlishis v'chamishes, v'hasheni made she'achla shniya revias v'shishis. So one is being made that it was the first, the third, and the fifth, and the other one is being made that he ate the second, the fourth, and the sixth. So the din is einei dusim sarefes. Why? Shebeshana shemeid bozeh leheid bozeh, and v'tavzer akarka v'aperes, because they're not both being made on the same field, on the same years. The ma'aseh is the mashmois advarim is that let's say if they would be both being made on rishena u'shlishis v'chamishes, then it would be good. The problem is that one is being made on rishena shlishis v'chamishes, and the other one is being made on shniya, revias, and shishis. L'chura, if it's rishena, shlishis, and chamishis, so then it's not consecutive years. And l'chura, you have to have consecutive years. So l'chura, even if they would both be made on rishena, shlishis, and chamishis, it also shouldn't work. So on that, the Maggid Mishnah says, so we have to say that we're talking about in a place where they're mevirim. It's the darken is lohever. So since it's the darken is lohever, so mela it's regular to be moiver, and the mela. So if they would have both been made about the first, that it's regular to leave it fallow for 1 year in between the 2 years that they plant. So therefore, if they would have both been made under Rishena, Shlishis, and Chamishis, it would have been good. So if that's the case, if it's dark and la'iver, so be'emes really each one is being made that there was a chazaka. Whereas he was being made that there was a chazaka from Rishena, Shlishis, and Chamishis. And he's being made that there was a chazaka from Sheni, Revi, and Shishik. So l'chura, each one is being made, there was chazaka. Einachinam, it's not the same chazaka, but l'chura, each one is being made as a chazaka. Let's say one would have been made the first, the second, and the third, and the other would have been made the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth. So l'chura, you have 2 eders that say that he had a chazaka. Einachinam, not the same year, so l'chura, it should work. But over here, the problem is that it's a stira. Now, since we're dealing with a place that it's dark and lohever, and that's why if it would have been the first, the third, and the fifth, it would have worked. So over here there's like a stira. One is saying there was the first, the third, and the fifth, and Melid is a chazaka, but the other one's saying no, that there was the second, the fourth, and the sixth, and that second, fourth, and sixth makes it not a chazaka. In other words, according to the first, the second one wasn't a chazaka, and according to the second, the first wasn't a chazaka, and that's why it doesn't work. But that comes out from the Maggid Mishnah, that if Lepel, he would say first, second, and third, and the other would say fourth, fifth, and sixth, it would have worked. I mean, the Ram doesn't say that clearly. The Ram just says, Shebeshah, Shemeid, Bazeh, Leheid, Bazeh, and therefore, V'tach Zakar K'vaperes. The problem is that Lepel, you don't have 2 people on the same years. But L'chura, the way we're saying Pshat over here now, it comes out, that's not the problem. The problem is that Lefi Dvorov, the other one didn't make a chazaka. Whereas each one, according to his hadah, the other one wasn't a chazaka. And Lashon Rambam sounds differently. The Lashon Rambam says that we don't have 2 edus on the same years. And Memela Hu Adin, if it would be 1, 2, and 3, and Al Derech Zeh 4, 5, and 6. That's l'chura tzarich bir. Halacha gimel. Mi sheyared l'soda b'cheska shehu yerish. And v'achal pereseh lepeil v'nimtza yerish acher shu karev mimenu v'roi lirusha. So the din is ben shnimtza be'edim. There's Edom saying that there's someone else which is closer, and he's the one that's royal lirusha. Ben shaheda lezeh sheyared b'tchili. The person that was actually yared, he was the one that was meda. So the din is chayav lahazer kol ha'pereshach. Halacha dalet. Shnayim shehoyu erin al asod. There's nobody in the field. Two people are tining about a certain field that is theirs. Zay mishali v'zay mishali. And ve'ei lechad memraya. That's one case. Oy shehevi kol echad mem edom shishalei. Each one has edom that is his. Ei sheishal avesav. Each one has edom that belong to their fathers. Ei shehevi kol echad mishneim edom she'achlu shnei chazaka. Each one has edom that he was achlu shnei chazaka. Memeli has a schus to tiny that is his. Vashnayim vashonim shehidu memelu ein hashonim atzmim shehidu memelu. They're both tining that this person has been here for the last 3 years. Reuven has Edom that he's been here for the last 3 years, and Shimon has Edom that he's been here for the last 3 years. So the din is minichin oisa b'neim. We leave the karka amongst them. We don't really have a raya about any of them, and therefore the din is v'cholam is gabri yedid bo v'yo echad meitzim yodiv olav raya. Whoever will be misgaber, he'll become the bailim, and the other person will become a meitzim chaver olav raya. And the Pasha's Lashon Rambam Medayik is that the Rambam says that once you make a tfisa, so it becomes yours. Whereas in this karka, once you make a tfisa, it becomes yours, and the other person can be meitzah from you. Teisves brings, there's Teisves that says that lepel, when you say kol da'alam gavar, so now when one person was gavar, the other person can be misgaber back and take it back from him. Mashiach in the Lashon Rambam sounds like that v'yio echad meitzim b'yodi v'olav. So the other person will be a meitzim b'chaver. Once one of them will be misgaber, so it becomes his, and the other person will be a meitzim b'chaver olav. Then bo shlishi v'takav olah v'yored l'teicha misal kanei seimenu. Now, if a third person comes and he doesn't tiny that it's his, whereas if these two are tiny each one that is theirs, or they have Edom that is theirs, and therefore the Edom is not really a proof that it's theirs because there's Edom that are being misalik. There's Edom tining against each other. So now a third person comes along and says, listen, since there's no real riot that's any of yours, I want to sit there. So we say no. So since their tining is theirs, even though they have Edom, conflicting Edom, nevertheless their taina is considered a taina. Mashenka, the third person, since he's a third person without a taina, so therefore misal kanei simimenu. You have to know what it will be, Lamashal. These two people have Edom, which are conflicting Edom. And Lepel, this person comes along and he says, it's mine, I don't have any Edom. So L'chura, those two people, they have Edom, but their Edom are conflicting Edom. So it's cool, Ilu L'chura, they have no Edom. And that's why we say, Kol Da'alim Gover. So L'chura, if this person tainas, it's his, even though he has no Edom, so he could also taina. So when do we say that Bosh Lishi v'Takav Olav Yored L'Teicha Misalkin? Only when he's not tining that it's his. You know, so he's saying, listen, since there's no real raya that it belongs to any of you, so Memela, I want to have it. So we say no, that since their tining is theirs, even though they have no Edom, or they have no Yisod of Edom, because the Edom are this contradicted, so therefore they have more of a schus here. Mashenki, this person that's beferish being made that it's not his, so he doesn't even have the schus of Kol Da'alim Gover. Halacha Hey v'ho'echad Edom shishal avesov, v'sha'ach l'shnei chazaka. He has two Edom that, first of all, he was shal avesov, and also that he was ach l'shnei chazaka. And Memela, as a result of that, varei tachas yodi, so it's his. V'hevi hasheni Edom knows sha'ach l'shnei chazaka, that he was the one that was ach l'shnei chazaka, and varei tachas yodi, and that it's his. So one of them has Edom that it was shal avesov, and v'sha'ach l'shnei chazaka, Memela varei tachas yodi, and the other one doesn't have the Edom shishal avesov. He only has the Edom sha'ach l'shnei chazaka, varei tachas yodi. So Nimtzas Edom ha'chazaka shel shnei mukcheshes, because we're talking about the same years. When was the ach l'shnei chazaka? However, one of them has Edom that was shel avesov. So therefore, mamidin esa biyad zeh shehidu le'eda chazaka she shel avesov. And then meridin esa l'secha, since he has Edom that was shel avesov, so he has Edom she shel avesov plus shnei chazaka. And he has Edom only of shel avesov. So Memela, so we mark the Edom shel avesov are mukchoshim, and Memela, this person still has Edom shehi shel. I mean, the Edom of chazaka are mukchoshim, and one of them has Edom she shel avesov. So we put it to the Edom she shel avesov. Now Chazer Hasheni vehevi gam hu Edom she shel avesov. He brings other Edom also she shel avesov. Shani nimtzaz gam Edom zu mukcheshes. Now Chayzen bezn u'misalkim imenu sorishon. So in other words, even though the Rishon was there already, because he was there based on the fact that he ate the Eidim Shishal Avesav. But now that the other one also has Eidim Shishal Avesav, so therefore he doesn't really have more of a right to this field than the other one. So now is Misalkin Mimenus Harishon, and now Minichan Eson Ben Shneim, and Becholam is Gabi Yared. So even though he was already there, but he was there at that point in time when there was no one else to contest him being there, because Lepel, he had Eidim Shel Avesav, and the other one didn't have Eidim. So he was there. So now, but we say, but since the only reason why he was put there is based on the fact that the other person didn't bring Eidim, so now that the other person brought Eidim, so we take him out of the field, and now we say the din of that Kol Da'alam Gover. So it's just like we had before, that L'moshel by a ship, when one of them asks that we should go ahead and hold it until we'll bring Rayas, and Lepel Bezin took it, so Bezin is not going to be moitzi it in order to say Kol Da'alam Gover. Since Bezin became a mugzik, so now they don't be moitzi Kol Da'alam Gover. That's when Bezin was holding it. Mashenkin over here, a person was put down into this field based on the fact that he was the one that had the Eidim, that Shishal Avesav, and the other one had, and the Eidim of the Chazaka was Mukhish. So now that this person comes along and he tainas, he has also Eidim Shishal Avesav, so then we take it out of this person, we say, we only gave it to you because you had Eidim, now we don't have Eidim. So therefore we say, Kol Da'alam Gover. L'chura, it's a shtickle raya that the gather of Kol Da'alam Gover is not a siluk, but it's rather like a din. There's a dion, when you get Kol Da'alam Gover, is it a siluk, Pshat Bezin is not getting involved, or Bezin is saying that whoever will be alim, that bepashtas he's Gover. So we learned before that the Rambam seems to say that when there's Kol Da'alam Gover, when you get this karka, so then the other one is Hametz Mechaver Olavarayis, so he becomes Takam Murzik. Not like those that hold that he could be Gover again. In other words, if you hold it's a siluk, Bezin is not getting involved, so this person grabbed it, so it's his. Now the other person grabs it back, so now it's his. So that's Pshat Bezin is Misalik. Mashenkin, if the Pshat is Bezin is Pasking, Kol Da'alam Gover, so then we say that it's a din once he grabs it, so the other one is Hametz Mechaver Olavarayis. Now, l'chura, if we assume that it's Hametz Mechaver Olavarayis, over here also is understandable that since Lepel at this point in time, the reason why we gave it to one is because he was the one that had the Raya Shel Avesav. He was the only one that had the Eidus. There wasn't Mukhesh of Avesav. So now that the other person has Eidim, so we say, no, now we go to the din. The din is called Alam Gover. And that'll be the bitter. Masha'inkin, if you learn that called Alam Gover is a siluk, so it means Bezin's not getting involved. So Lepel, right now, this person has the karka. Enochram, he had the karka because he originally brought the Eidim and there was no Eidim to against him. But Lepel right now is the karka. So why take the karka away from him in order to make Kol Da'alam Gover? So the answer is no, because Kol Da'alam Gover is also a din. And Lepel, since they gave it to him based on this misinformation, in other words, the other person didn't bring the Eidim that was Shel Avesov, now that the person brought the Eidim Shel Avesov, so therefore there's a svara to say, let's take it out of this person and now institute the din of Kol Da'alam Gover. L'chura, it stims if you hold that Kol Da'alam Gover is a din. If you hold it's a siluk, it's harder to understand l'chura. Halacha Vav. Zeh Mishal Avesov, v'zeh Mishal Avesov. Zeh v'eidim shi Shel Avesov. But his taina was that it was Shel Avesov. And Lepel, the other one, has a raya that it was Shel Avesov. So the din is Tachzel Uzeh Shehevi Eidim Shi Shel Avesov. So it goes back to the person that brought Eidim Shi Shel Avesov. V'yachzer Zeh Kol HaPeir Shel Achal. Why? He's tiny that he has Eidim that are Achal Shnei Chazaka. But on the other end, what's his taina? His taina was that it was Shel Avesov. Lepel, the fact that it was Shel Avesov was proven wrong because there's Adam that's saying that it was the other person's Avesov. So it comes out that he has a chazok of Shel Lishonim without a taina. The taina was that it was Shel Avesov, and that taina was proven wrong because there's Adam that's saying that it was the other person's Avesov. So Memele, it comes out Sharei Tonol of Klum Ve'in Achilosi Raya Shekol Chazok She'eni B'Taina L'Abailim Ein Klum. So there's this taina that he had was Shel Avesov is not a taina because it was proven wrong. And Elamai, he ate it, Shnei Chazaka, Adarabah, so he has to pay for that, for those payers. So again, one person is tiny Shel Avesov, the other person was also tiny Shel Avesov, and this person has a Chazaka, he has a Chazaka. Now, Lepel, the person that doesn't have the Chazaka, brings a raya that was Shel Avesov. So we say, well, it was Shel Avesov. So this person's tiny Shel Avesov wasn't true. So Memela, the Achli Shnei Chazaka, which was together with the time of Shalavesav, wasn't true, the Shalavesav. So Memela, the fact that it was Achli Shnei Chazaka, he has to pay back to the other person, which has a right, Shalavesav. Now, Chazer Zeh Magzik V'Omar, Kein Shalavisecha Hoisa. Be'emes, you're right, it was Taka your Avisecha. Abel V'ata Mechartali, Be'emes, you sold it to me. And v'zeh sheta'anti tchila she'ish shalavesai kalemar shanisei mecholeh v'ari she'li ki shalavesai. Because I didn't mean it's mamish shalavesai. I meant to say that it's mine as if it would have been shalavesai. Eisha Amar kein shalavesai shalakhu ma'avisecha. So now he's adjusting his taina. Either he's saying that really I bought it from you, and when I said shalavesai, I meant that it's kilu shalavesai, or I meant to say shalavesai shalakhu ma'avisecha. So then it's harezu taina nechena. Shari nosna maslu dvar rishena, like we learned before. And this taina could be another taina. Umamid neisa biyodi. So now, since he has shnei chazak, and he has a taina, that the taina is that either that he bought it, and ki'ilu was shalavesei, or shavesei bought it from avisecha. So then it's mamid neisa biyodi. However, v'im kshetuam betchila amarle shalavesei v'le shalavisecha, he made it clear, no, it was my father's and not your father's. So now he can't go ahead and say, I meant it was your father's, but I bought it from your father. I bought it from you. It's keilu shalavesei avesei lochum avisecha, because my taina clearly said shalavesei v'le shalavisecha. So then ein shemle b'taina zu acheres v'chein kol kietzbus. So now we don't accept this taina. Halacha zayin. Ruven shoya b'tech soda. He was in a field. Bosh Shimon v'irir olav. He's tying the Shimon is tying the field is his. V'amar Ruven soda zu milevi knisiyah. V'chalti eisa shnei chazok. I bought this field from the original owner, which was Levi. We'll see that everyone is masking that the original owner was Levi. I bought it from Levi, and I've been here shnei chazok. Is Amali Shimon v'alishtar zeh mekuyim biyodi shani lekachtia milevi me'ayem arba shonim. I bought it from Levi 4 years ago. So Mela, I'm the earlier buyer. He's tying, I bought it from Levi 4 years ago. Mela, the fact that you bought it from Levi is meaningless because it wasn't Levi's. I bought it from him 4 years ago. Now, Shimon tained that he bought it from Levi and he has Shnei Chazaka. Now, if we assume that Shnei Chazaka means 3 years, so then it means basically he's tiny that he bought it 3 years ago. So now, if that's what Reuven's tain is, so if that's the case, so Shimon's tain is Geiver on Reuven. Because Shimon is taining that when you bought it from Levi, it was no longer Levi's, it was mine. I have a star which says that I bought it from Levi 4 years ago. So if that would be the pshat and the taina of Reuven that he bought it 3 years ago. But now Reuven has a right to say, no, I didn't mean I bought it 3 years ago. I said I bought it from Levi, and I have Shnei Chazaka, but I have more than 3 years. I have actually 7 years. So if I have 7 years, so basically I'm saying that I bought it from Levi 7 years ago. So if I bought it from Levi 7 years ago, so then I have a Shnei Chazaka, and Mamela, you bought it after me. So the fact that you have a star is meaningless, because Lepel, I have Shnei Chazaka, and my Shnei Chazaka were before your sale. Now Lepel, if L'chura, what does he have to have 7 years ago? Why isn't it enough that he bought it 6 years ago, 5 years ago? Sof kol sof, his taina is that he bought it before Shimon bought it. So the Maisa is because Lepel, he doesn't have a star that he bought it 4 or 5 or 6 years ago. He has only Shnei Chazaka. So if Lepel, there was no macho on Levi's part to his sholish Shnei Chazaka before he sold it to Shimon, so then it remains by Reuven. But Lepel, Shimon has a star that Levi sold it to Shimon. Now let's say Reuven bought it 6 years ago. He bought it 6 years ago. But Shimon's star is a macho against Reuven's chazaka. Again, Reuven is tining, he bought it 6 years ago. And Shimon is tining that he has a star from Levi that he bought it 4 years ago. So if Reuven would have had a star that he bought it 6 years ago, obviously his star is an earlier star, and that would be Mizgaber on Shimon's star. But since he doesn't have a star, so he's basing his tiny that he bought it on the chazaka. Lepel, there was a macho of Levi, by Levi selling it to Shimon, he made a macho. And therefore we have to have that Reuven is tining, and he has edus that he has a chazaka from 7 years ago. Memele, he has a chazaka before the zman of the star of Shimon. So therefore Shimon's star is not considered a macho because he already had a chazaka before the macho, and therefore it remains by Reuven. That's his name. Let's read it again. Reuven shahaya b'teich soda, and then ubosh Shimon v'irel. Shimon is tining is his. V'amar Reuven, Soda Zu Milevi Knessia, from the original owner, V'achalti Esa Shnei Chazok. He didn't specify how many years. Amali Shimon, V'ali Shtar Zeh Mekoyim B'yodi. I have a star in my hands. Shani Lekachtia Milevi Ma'ayem Arba Shonim. I bought this from Levi 4 years ago. So Mele, even if you bought it from him 3 years ago, you had no right to buy it from him because it was already mine. Chazer Reuven V'amar V'chisal Al Daitche Sheyesh Lishol Shonim B'vad. Do you think I meant that I only have 3 years from when I bought it of Chazaka? Shonim Rabbis Yashli Mishal. I have it for many years. I have it many years before you. Vani Kidam Ticha, and my kinyan was before you. So the din is Arei Ruvis Tainus Ruvin Tainus. That's the time. Even though he said Yeshli Shnei Chazaka and he didn't specify 7 years, we don't assume that Shnei Chazaka means 3 years and now he's changing his Tainus. He said Shnei Chazaka, but he could tie choice that when he said Shnei Chazaka, he meant 7 years. Sha'adam Keira L'Shana Rabbi Shnei Chazaka L'Fichach. Im Hevi Reuven Edom Sha'ach L'Sheva Shanim. If Reuven brings Edom that he was there for 7 years, Shenimtza Sha'ach L'Shnei Chazaka Kedem Shalach Shimon. So it comes out that he was there for 3 years with Shnei Chazaka before Shimon bought it. Is Mamid Neisa B'Yodi. So in other words, Reuven has a right to say he bought it 7 years ago, because he ate it 3 years after those 7 years ago. But let's say he only has Edom that he ate it for 6 years, so then it's Tachzil L'Shimon. Because he's tiny that he bought it 6 years ago, good, he's tiny he bought it 6 years ago, but he doesn't have a star. So the only way he should be Nema to tiny he bought it 6 years ago, if he ate it for 3 years after that time of the sale without a macho. Aber Lepel, since Shimon has a star, that Levi sold it to him, so that star that Levi sold it to Shimon is a macho against the chazak of Reuven. So Reuven doesn't really have a cheskes shalosh shanim behemshah to those 6 years. Mela Reuven loses it. Avalim achle pachas misheva shanim. So then tachzol Shimon she'en lecha macho miLevi g'dei lemizu. Shari machre came she'achzik Reuven before Reuven had a chance to be magzik in it. So then Levi was already meicha. So Mela Reuven has to have has the taina that he bought it 7 years ago, and he has to have edus that there was a chazaka from 7 years ago. Now the pashtus, he doesn't really need edus that there was a chazaka from 7 years ago until now. He could taina, he really only has to produce edus that there was a chazaka from 7 years ago until 4 years ago. There's that he bought it 7 years ago. He's taina, he bought it 7 years ago. He has a chazaka from those 7 years ago until 4 years ago. And the fact that Shimon has a star which says that Levi sold it to him is nothing, because he's tiny. He bought it from Levi 7 years ago, and he has a chazaka of Shalosh Shanim. The further chazaka that he has is not negel l'chur. Halacha ches. Zei mishal avesai vehevi edim. V'zei mishal avesai ve'in li edim. So it's pasha tachzil l'zeh shehevi edim. So the person that tiny shal avesai and has edim, so he gets it. And the tazla zeh shevi edim u'mitziyim mizeh kol ha'peiros shehedim behem shachlam. All the peiros which he was made that he ate, afal pishein olav edim shachal. There's no edim that he ate, but since lepel he has edim that it was shalav esav, and he doesn't have edim shalav esav, so we name on for sure that it was shalav esav, and there's no taina that it's shalav esav. And lepel, since he's being made that he ate the peiros, so Memelis, he has to pay for the peiros. Shariu Eimer Shemach Misavesav Achal Vari Edim Shishal Avesav Shul Zatein V'Chen Kol Kietzim. So since he's being made that he ate, and he's being made that the only reason why he tainas is his is because Shal Avesav. And Lepel we have Edim that it was the other person Shal Avesav. So Memelis Pasha that he has to be made. Now Hevi HaMa'arer Edim Shazu Asoda Shalei. The Ma'arer tainas that this field was his. I actually bought it from you, and I have a star. Now, and he takes out a star, where there's a kiyum on the star. It was authenticated. Now, Toen V'Nitan, the ma'ar is tiny shu mezuyif. That's really a star mezuyif. And the bala star, the person that produced the star, says you're right. It's taka star mekuyim. V'amar keinu. It's true that it's a star mekuyim. Avol. Star kosher. I once had a star kosher. And therefore, I only produced this star. I produced a star mezuyif because I really had a star mekuyim. And really, I had a proper star. But lepel, I lost that star. So I produced this star. But I hope with the hope that the ma'ar will be made there. Is hail v'ilu ratza ha'yemed b'shtarish sharei mekuyim hu. is Areze Neman ve'mitzinas asodim tachas yodi v'yishav. Now, since Lepel, he has a star, and that star could have given him a taina, that it's his. So even though Lepel, he's being made that the star is a star mezuyif. So really, he has no koyach from the koyach of the star. But the star gives him the possibility to have tained b'sheker. So Memela, now he's tying that the emes is that the karka is his, so therefore it's mamid neisibiyodi. Now we had a similar din b'negei halva. When a person is tying, a person is coming to take out money from someone, and the leva is tying that it's mezuyif. Now that the malva is made it that the star is taka star mezuyif. But lepel, I had a good star, and lepel, I lost that star, and now I produced the star. So over there, the din is that we taka don't give it to the malva. Why? Because even though lepel, he has a taina and he has a migoy, but since he doesn't have a star, you can't be meitzim moment. I'm meitzim chaver olav araya, and he's being moida that this star is not a good star. So normally when you have a star, so the star is a raya. Mashenkin over here, he's saying clear, hai shtar chas bebalmu. Elamai, his raya is the migoy. A migoy is not enough of a raya lahetzi. A migoy lahetzi le'amrinan. Memela, with such a star, you wouldn't be able to be meitzim moment from the leva. Masha'inkin over here, since this person is a machzik, he's in the karka. It's machlekes in Gemara, but since is a machzik, so Memela, since he's in the karka and he's tying the karka as his, and he has a migui because he could have tied that the star was a good star. So over here we say that since he has a migui, so Memela he can remain in the karka. Halacha yud hevi ama'ad edim shezu asoda shalei. The Ma'ar comes with edim that the karka was his. And we heavy Edim shachal shnei chazak. So he brings Edim that he was there shnei chazak, and that the Pashas gives him a schus and amonis to tie him memchol kachtia. Now Toen Hama'ar v'Omer eich titen shulakachti mimeni me'ayem shol shonim. How could you say that you bought it for me 3 years ago? 3 years ago, or be'esi azman, on that time with your tiny, you bought it for me. Lo hayisi b'Medina. I b'chlal wasn't here. I wasn't in this Medina. So the din is matzichin on zeh shebetecha lahavi raya shezeh pleini hama'arer hoye imei b'medina b'zman zeh shetein shemocher lebei. In other words, on that day which he's tiny, he bought it, and lepel the ma'arer is tiny that I wasn't here b'chlal, so that the machzik has to bring a raya that he was here. Nochmal. Matzichin on zeh shebetecha lahavi raya shezeh pleini hama'arer hoye imei b'medina b'zman zeh shetein shemocher libei. Afili yemechad, that he was there at least for 1 day. Kedei sheyeh efshe shiyim kerlei. V'imlei heavy, but if he doesn't bring any rayas, is misal kenese. So it's coming out that normally the din is that the fact that I have a chazaka is a proof or is a raya that it was mine. I bought it. Now lepel, the ma'arer is timing that I couldn't have sold it to you. Why couldn't I have sold it to you? Because I wasn't here b'chlal. So on that we're saying that the machzik has to bring a raya that the ma'arer was here. Now the Maisa, the Mefarshim explain, there's different explanations. Either we're talking about in a case where it was a zman cherum, which means there was a time that was difficult to go from one place to the other, and therefore the fact that he's tying that he was there is a chidush, and therefore when the ma'arer is tying, I couldn't have been here, I wasn't here. So therefore the machzik has to prove that the ma'arer was here. Maisa, the Rambam doesn't say that. Or others say that the pshat is we're talking about, we know for a fact that he wasn't here. He was originally not here. That was the fact that the ma'arer wasn't here generally in that time, that's a known fact. Elamai, the machzik is timing that lepel he came and he sold it to me, and my raya is that I'm a muzik sholishonim. So that you say that he has to prove that from that time, which generally we know he wasn't there, he came and at least he was there for 1 day. Again, in the Rambam it doesn't say. The Rambam it sounds like as if even though there's no yisod to the ma'arer's tiny that he wasn't here, but nevertheless, for some reason or another, the machzik has to prove that the ma'arer was here. If you learn the other way, it comes out that there's a yisod, the ma'arer's tiny, I couldn't have been there. Everyone knows there's a man cherim. Everyone knows I wasn't here. So he has to prove that he was here, and it's possible that he would have sold it. But Shenken, the Ram writes it, it's a little tzarech beer. Why should the machzik have to prove that the ma'arer was there? The mere fact that he has a chazak entitles him to taina that he bought it. Memela, it means obviously that he was here. Halacha Yudalef. Mi sheholech l'mdinas hayam v'avda derech sedeo. A person has a way. In other words, there's a field that's surrounded by 4 other fields, and he has a way to get to his field. Through one of those fields. But now he went to the mdinas hayam. He comes back and he doesn't remember really where the way to his field is. Where the way to his field is. So now the mice is it depends. If this field was owned always by one person, it was always owned by one person. There's one person that owns all 4 fields. So then his taina is, listen, I definitely have a way to get to my field through one of your fields. Give me a way. Give me the easiest way, the most convenient for you, the shortest way. But you, since I know for sure that I have a way through your fields to get to my field, so therefore you are obligated to give me a way to get to my field. However, if there are 4 separate people that own these 4 fields, so either the 4 separate people always own the fields, or originally it was taka owned by one person, but now it's owned by 4 separate people. So then each person can tiny, listen, there's no raya that I owe you the field. I know I'm tiny, I don't owe you the field. You don't have a right. I don't owe you a way in my field. Mainly each one can push him off to the other person. Each one says you have no right on my field, or there's no raya that you have a right on my field. And therefore, if you want to have a right of way, you have to buy it. You have to buy it from one of the person, or perech ba'aver. And those bekitzer, you have no rights to take away from one of us, because each one of us is separately, and each one can push you off to someone else. So that's the difference. If there's one person, so then you can obviously have the right. And if there's 4 people, whether the 4 people originally started off as 4 people, or the 4 people was originally one person and he sold it to 4 people, so each one of those 4 people could push you off to the other 3. Memela, the only way for you to get the way to get to your field would only be by buying it. Now what happens if there was originally 4 people, and one person bought it from all 4? So when it was originally the 4, you weren't able to get it. But now you're going to this one person, you're saying to this one person, now we know for sure that you own a field which has a right of way for me. So Mela, now from you I want to get a right of way. So that the one person says, listen, I'm coming mikoyach from 4 people, which those 4 people could have pushed you off. And I could say, listen, I'll give the karka back to them. Basically, the Yisod Advarim is that since I'm coming from people, that each one has a right to push you off, so I also have a right to push you off. That's what we'll learn here. Halacha Yudalef. Mi shahalach l'mdinas hayam, v'avda derech sodeu. Ben shahayu arba sodis makifes eisel arba noshim. They will chatchila 4 people own those 4 fields. Ben shahayu arba, which were kono miyachad. The 4 people now own those 4 fields, and originally one person owned the 4 fields. But nevertheless, each one can push him off. Maybe your derech is on me, on chaveri. And so I made some chaveri al varaya. You want to start making a derech on my field. So he's going to have to buy a derech, b'mei money, even if it's very expensive. A yifrach ba'avor, he should fly in the avor, which obviously he can't do. So memela, so in other words, he's going to have to buy a derech. That's the only way for him to get to his field. That's case number 1. V'chein. Even if now it's owned by one person, right now it's owned by one person, but it's shekana oisul mi'arba. He bought it from 4 separate people. Is also ein le'ol of derech. So he also didn't have a derech. Why? If I return each one his shtar, is einata yochel aver alechem. You're not going to be able to return on anyone. In other words, I bought it from them. If I return it to them, so now it's back theirs, and you're going to be not going to be able to go to any of them. So since each one had a schus to push you off, so even though Lepel right now it's all mine, but Lepel, since each one had a schus to push you off, that's part of my sale, that I have a right to push you off as well. I have a right to push you off as well. It's not so clear, because first you start off saying, he could say, I'll return him a shtar. Lepel, to return him a shtar, he can't undo the sale. It's an issue. What's this idea of Agzul Lecholech Shtori? In other words, just like when a person owns one person owns one of the carcass, he also has the brera. He could sell it to 4 people. He could sell it to 4 people, and then this person won't have a schus. But that's not a taina, because Lepel, you're one person, you own it, and you always owned it. Over here, the vart is you bought it from 4 people, so they be'emes had the schus to push you off, and now I bought their rights, and their rights was to have a schus. So the main vort is that since I bought their rights, so I bought the rights also to push you off. So this vort, is not so clear. What does that add to the story? But I'll call upon him. So the din is that since he could taina, that I could give it back to them, and Lepel, they had a schus to push you off, so then the din is that he doesn't have to give a derech. It was originally he was one person. Originally he was one person, and now it's still one person. So then Hareza Emily, the person that lost his derech to his son, says, Mikol Mokim, Darki Alecha, I definitely have a way on you. Either I'll take the shortest way, whatever, whichever derech the balasodis chooses. But lepel, I have a taina that it's clear that I have a derech. It's just not clear where the derech is. So you choose where the derech is. V'chein kol ki yetz b'zeh. Now v'him hirzik b'derech. V'omar zuhi darki. In other words, lepel, the balasoda has a right to say which is the derech, but which derech he wants to give him. But lepel im hirzik b'derech. V'omar zuhi darki. If this person comes along and he I definitely have a derech. It's clear that I have a derech on these others. And lepel, this is my derech. So unless the balasod, over here is a situation where he definitely has a kecha tviyah on a derech, and he's telling that this is the derech that I have, and the balasodis is telling not like that. So then the balasodis has to prove that that's not the derech, and only then could he be misalikim.